Hey, we have a breaking report from earlier on CNN, and the reverberations of the content of this report, well, it's the result, as you're about to see just a second, of the rising tensions that we've all seen in Los Angeles over the last 24 hours.
Protesters and federal agents clashing in Southern California over recent ICE arrests. This video showing the violent confrontations outside a federal building in downtown LA. Police cracking down on protesters, declaring it an unlawful assembly, ordering the crowd to go home. This is the second day of chaos and vandalism. Tonight, Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem warning the protesters, "You will not stop us or slow us down." ABC's senior reporter Catherine Faulders leads us off tonight.
Tonight, protests escalating into conflict in Los Angeles as the Trump administration's aggressive deportation efforts spark fear and outrage across the country. For the second consecutive day, angry crowds clashed with law enforcement following a series of ICE raids that drew condemnation from local leaders.
You cannot just come into the community and terrorize citizens the way you did.
An ICE raid in Paramount today devolving into chaos. Dramatic aerial footage showing protesters blocking a bus carrying officers. Police in riot gear dispersing crowds with flashbangs and tear gas. The FBI vowing to find people they say threw rocks at law enforcement vehicles. And in New York, video showing this man, which the Department of Homeland Security identified as Joaquin Rosario Espinal of the Dominican Republic. Authorities say Espinal resisted arrest following the dismissal of his immigration proceedings. He and another woman who allegedly assaulted an officer were arrested, authorities say, despite interference by members of the public. The Department of Homeland Security calling for an end to the violence against ICE officers who they claim are facing a 413% increase in assaults when carrying out arrests.
So as Trump and ICE flex their muscle in blue states like New York, and in our breaking story, the latest dangerous development, it's a major escalation in the showdown in SoCal. Well, before I saw the breaking story that we're about to show you, I just watched this, and it turns out to be a perfect bit of context. It turns out as well that it's not as easy to find ICE in red states in places like Mar-a-Lago. Go figure. Tim Miller, he has the best take on this. It's a perfect setup for our major move. Bombshell news from the Pentagon.
It's certainly something that they want. I mean, you have to notice that the ICE raids are not happening at Donald Trump's golf courses, are in deep red parts of the country, right? Like, these raids are happening in a lot of blue cities. It's been happening for a while in Chicago and other places, and LA is the place where it has kind of exploded onto the streets here. And I just think that, all you have to do is read a social media feed, and you played some of those bleats from earlier. Like, this is a person who seems very excited to be able to send in the troops, right? It is not somebody that is, trying to be measured and wait to see how things play out, and if things really do get out of hand in LA, maybe you have to call in the guard. Like, that's not what's happening. And they called in the guard before there were any, before they needed to. And so I think that shows just how much they want this fight in the White House.
Well, in Los Angeles, our breaking story sadly goes like this from CNN.
Breaking news now from the Pentagon. CNN can now report that roughly 500 Marines are being mobilized in response to the protests in Los Angeles.
And this is a significant escalation from President Trump, who had activated National Guard troops over the weekend without Governor Gavin Newsom's consent. In this new move, active duty military members are being deployed as a show of force against U.S. citizens. CNN's Natasha Bertrand is live for us at the Pentagon. Natasha, what are you learning?
Well, Brianna, this is something that Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth had previewed over the weekend. He said that if necessary, he would deploy the Marines to Los Angeles to help federal agents with handling the protests there. And it appears now that these Marines, according to our sources, they have been mobilized. These 500 Marines, a full Marine battalion based out of 29 Palms, California, which is just outside San Bernardino, about an hour away from Los Angeles. They have been mobilized, and they are gearing up to go and help ICE agents as well as other federal officials deal with these protests in Los Angeles. Importantly, they're going to be bolstering as well the National Guard, guardsmen and women who have been activated in Los Angeles by President Trump. But as you said, it is a significant escalation of the president's use of the military as a show of force against these protesters. It's really not clear, the last time Marines were deployed to help essentially with riot control. role, though it's unclear at this point just what their actual tasking will be. Typically, if they are deployed to these situations, it is expected that they will operate in much the same way that the National Guard does, doing things like perimeter security, maybe some crowd control. But the rules of engagement here, we are told, are still being finalized, and Defense Department lawyers are also looking at the kinds of rules of engagement these Marines will have as they encounter protesters, possibly on the streets of Los Angeles. But again, this coming at a very, very tense moment with the governor of California suing the Trump administration over, of course, the deployment of the National Guard by President Trump against his will there in California.
So if history is doomed to repeat itself, well, it seems the close to this story may well write itself. Let's hope and pray not. And R.I.P. Sly Stone.
What happened here at Kent State University 50 years ago defined an age.
The guardsmen opened fire on the students.
67 shots. At an anti-Vietnam War protest, 4 dead, 9 injured.
I've never been able to just completely forget it.
Student photographer Howard Ruffner was on the Hill that day. His pictures soon appeared in Life magazine, including this dramatic cover.
I didn't know if he was alive or dead. And you look at him, he doesn't look like he's going to live.
The young man fighting for his life, freshman John Cleary, was shot walking to class.
I was shot in the chest, 1 or 2 inches in one direction. I wouldn't be here.
Events that penned an anthem by singer Neil Young. Polls at the time showed most Americans blamed the demonstrators, not the Guard.
It's such a juxtaposition.
John Cleary has spent his life moving beyond it.
It's a snapshot of one moment of time, and I didn't want that to define me.
Today on campus, scars, bullet holes, markers for the dead.
How do you feel standing here now, looking at this spot? I get shivers.
As Kent State prepares to mark the anniversary, Howard and John meet for the first time.
Pleasure to finally meet you, because
it really is.
New bonds from the darkest of days. Kevin Tibbles, NBC News, Kent State University.